Want to start off like last week.
Everything.
Congratulate Tyler Van Dyke, who's been named ACC Rookie of the Week for the second straight week. Certainly worthy of that award. And James Williams was ACC Defensive Back of the Week. So congratulations to both of those guys. Pretty great to see both individuals be acknowledged, but to me, it's part of a team goal, team effort. And normally the individuals get acknowledged when the team does things the right way. And again, we're very it was a good feeling in the building yesterday, coming back off of a fantastic victory at Pittsburgh. We did what we did on Sunday, went through it with the Tell the Truth Sunday. But the reality is that we still have to keep the same mentality as we had 2 weeks ago, that our backs are still against the wall. We have very little margin for error in this conference. We have a dangerous team in Georgia Tech coming in here this weekend. We remember what they did to us 2 years ago. We lost out on the opportunity to play them a year ago, which was disappointing to us. And we're excited to get back in our stadium and get on the grass with these guys. Should be an excellent contest. They've got some really, really dangerous weapons on both sides of the ball and a very aggressive scheme. So with that, open up for questions.
Yeah, hey, Manny. Probably not your typical first question at the Tuesday virtual press conference, but I wanted to ask about your vision for the team, sort of big picture moving forward, and specifically like what kind of split you see with the transfer portal the way it is now versus high school recruits you're trying to get. Like, is it maybe 50-50 this cycle? And then also moving even beyond that, like, do you foresee getting the right guys out of the transfer portal as maybe just as important to Miami's future success as high school recruiting? Can you talk about that a little?
I think that'll be important for everybody's success. I mean, look at I'll use Alabama as an example. I mean, Jameson Williams changed them, and coming over from Ohio State, and obviously, the middle linebacker they got from Tennessee. I mean, those are key pieces that that made a difference for them. So, I think you have to evaluate it, Matt, position by position. I think you have to understand where your needs are. I don't see a great difference from the National Football League. I mean, you look at what you have. You look at what you've recruited, you look at what you have at each position, try to get a sense of what you're not going to have. And the trick now is that what no one really knows is no one really knows what your own attrition is, what numbers you might lose. And that's kind of across the board, across the country. Because if you lose your depth, let's say you lose your old depth because they just want to go somewhere and try to have a chance to start, that can become very difficult, right? Because you may have an experienced guy and then it's hard to keep your backups around. No one really knows how that's going to shake down. So I don't think we look at it, Matt, as like, hey, we want to just go all transfers or we want to go all high school or even want to go 50-50. I think at each position we ask the coaches, say, okay, where do you feel your room is right now? Where do you feel like you have, holes needed next year to try to get our team as competitive as we can next year? And I think college football now affords the opportunity to try and improve yourself on a year by year basis.
So just to clarify though, like, I know you have 8 commitments, whatever. You already said it's not going to be a big recruiting class. So just to clarify, you don't have like already in mind, okay, we're probably going to take 8 transfers. Like, there's nothing like that in play right now. You'll look after the season and figure it out.
The number isn't like that. The number is more like, well, when we go by position, we say, okay, this is what we expect to bring back next year. Would you need a younger guy? Would you need an older guy? And then also, it always goes, Matt, what's out there? What's in our backyard? What's in our footprint from a recruiting standpoint. And if you can't get it from that footprint, if it's a down year for whatever said position, then you can balance that in the portal, which you really couldn't do in the past.
Hey, Manny. So you guys allowed 519 passing yards. I guess that was the most ever allowed by a UM team. And, obviously the offense is going very well. And it seems but 2 minutes here to get to where you want to get the rest of the season, it'll be tough allowing as many yards and points as you have been. What are you most concerned about now on defense, and how do you improve it or begin to fix it?
I don't think it's changed very much, Susan. I mean, I think obviously it's for us, it's consistency as a defense, and it's definitely consistency on the back end. I mean, look, we went and played probably the top quarterback in the country with 3 freshmen starting the secondary. And they made it difficult. They threw for a bazillion yards. They also but they also dropped back and threw the ball over 60 times during the course of the game. So you're gonna amass more yards if you're calling 60 drop back passes during the game. That doesn't mean we covered as well as we wanted to cover. but they made it difficult for us in man. You know, they did a better job of getting open in man than we did at covering him at times. And then when you played zone, Pickett's good enough to check it down. The big thing in that game was Pickett's just his ability to extend plays. I mean, we put him on the ground 4 times. We had him dead to rights a couple more times that he scrambled out of. I mean, if he wasn't as athletic as he would have been, I think we could have gotten him on the ground about 10 times, but he is. And that's why he is the player that he is. But we knew going into the game that we weren't certainly happy with giving up as many passing yards as we did, but we knew that the formula for success in beating those guys was to not let them run the football and try to make them one-dimensional throwing it. Now, obviously, we want to stop them better than what we did. But at the end of the day, that turned out to be true because when you have to throw the ball 60 some odd times, guess what happens? One time a pass, sails on you, receiver doesn't turn around, whatever, and you make an interception at a key time. And obviously that was one of the telling plays in the game.
Hey, Manny, kind of like following up, I have a couple questions, but kind of following up on Susan's question, I guess, how concerned are you then talking about how athletic Pickett is? You guys got a Jeff Sims, even more athletic, some would say. I guess, how concerned are you from that standpoint defensively with what he can do outside the box?
It's a different style of pass offense, but Jeff Sims, I mean, his athletic ability jumps off the tape. I keep saying the same thing. It is a phenomenal year for quarterbacks in the ACC. It does not get talked about enough. And I think that's why you see the scores the way that they are, and it's up and down the league. I mean, it is you have quarterbacks that can push the ball down the field. Georgia Tech's got some very talented wide receivers that they've added through transfer. Both their backs we have a lot of respect for. And again, as you mentioned, if Sims, if you have everybody covered and he can extend plays and make plays with his feet, I mean, he dominated North Carolina in the second half of that game. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge when you play good quarterbacks week in, week out. So, again, we expect this week to be no different.
And do you have an update on Michael Redding? It's just we haven't seen him in the past, I guess, 3 games.
Yeah, Mike had a labrum injury that needed surgery to get fixed. So we won't have Mike for the rest of the year.
Hey, Manny. You talking about opposing quarterbacks, but your own got hit a couple times. It seemed, late hits by Pitt. I don't know if there's anything complaining you can do to the conference or stuff like that, but what can you do to try to protect him? Obviously, he's very valuable to what you guys are doing, and is that something that you guys can take issue with the conference?
I mean, they called 2 on one drive, which you don't normally see. And I thought they did their best to try to protect them. Pitt's gonna hit the quarterback. And I say that, and that's what they want to do. The same way we want to hit the quarterback. That's their whole game philosophy is about affecting that guy either by making him hold the ball with their pass rush or with the pressure that they bring. So, I mean, one, we got to get the ball out of our hands sometimes a little bit sooner. We got to protect, and strain a little bit longer when we're protecting for Tyler. And then sometimes Tyler's understanding of what's coming and the type of pressure. But you're right. I mean, obviously we got to be able to protect him. Tyler's a big guy. He's tough, but those hits do start to happen.
Hey, Manny, you've now been here almost, I guess, 6 years and have been experiencing the ACC as a coordinator, now as a head coach. And literally almost every game is coming down to one play here or there. You lost 2 this year, you won 2 this year. What is that like for you as a head coach whose career essentially is riding on these one play swings week to week? And how do you get out of that, I guess, pattern in the big picture?
Well, I mean, we've obviously been in very competitive games. I think that's one is just kind of how our league is built. That's not a Miami thing. I think if you look around the conference, there's just been a lot of really, really tight games. Georgia Tech was driving the ball on Clemson with a chance to tie the game on the last drive of the game. I mean, just our league is, and I think this is probably true around college football. There's a lot of really close contests that are coming down to a play or two. It's very similar to the National Football League, and I don't know that's really going to go away. I think that's going to be something very similar. Now, I think obviously our 4 games have been a little bit on the extreme of really coming down to the final possession. But I mean, obviously a consistency over the entire 60 minutes would help. But as a head coach, I don't think of anything other than finding a way to get us towards victory. And one thing I am proud of is the way that we've played in the final 10 minutes of the last 4 league games. Defensively, we've only given up 6 points in the final 10 minutes in the last 4 league games we've played. And obviously offensively, we've made plays in those games to either win the game or to give us a chance to win the game. So when we have had to be at our best, we've been at our best. Now, obviously what we've done the last 2 weeks is we started better, and getting off to better starts helps us out. But those are two really, really difficult teams to play the last 2 weeks. Again, Pitt, we since I've been here, and we played, my first year we played Trubisky, we played Daniel Jones a few years. Those guys were first round draft choices. That to me, I thought Pickett was better than, I don't know if we played a quarterback better than Pickett in the time that we've been here. And we've rolled through some special ones this year now. Howell has been unstoppable all year. Armstrong from Virginia, no one slowed him down. And obviously Bryce Young, Thorne from Michigan State. The guy from NC State, Larry, is having a hell of a year. I mean, this is a really, really good year for quarterbacks. When you have, it's the same thing I felt like with us, what changed with us last year with Derek. When you feel like you got a quarterback, you feel like you have a chance in every game. And I think that changes the way that everyone on the roster plays. And I keep circling back in the ACC, just about everybody in this league has a quarterback they believe they can go win with. Look at what Wake Forest is doing on the other side with Hartman. I mean, they're unbelievable, but that QB position gives everybody confidence. And it's hard to beat confident teams. It's hard to beat teams that know they're never out of the game because they got a guy that can get them right back into it.
Hi, Manny. To build off the quarterback point you were just making, I was curious, when you got the job, how high on your priority list was fixing quarterback long term? And do you believe you've done that with King, Van Dyke, and Garcia?
It was as high as anything on the list, I mean, and if you look at some of the inconsistencies we had in 2019 that were, predicated on a little bit of that. And we're thankful that, that Tyler Van Dyke in that 2020 class, stuck with us, came here. I mean, obviously we're still, I mean, we internally in this program think so highly of Jake Garcia, and what he's capable of. But Derek King changed it, bringing Derek King, that changed the program. And that's why I say, I mean, he's a big part of the story going forward. And I think our quarterback recruiting going forward with where we're at for this class and class's future are also on the up. It is really, really hard to win in college football right now. Much like the NFL without a quarterback. And I think Rhett Lashing deserves a lot of credit for bringing in a very quarterback-friendly offense that quarterbacks want to play in, that wideouts want to play in, where you can attract the freshman wideout class we had this year. You can attract a Charleston Rambo, to want to come to your school with the type of balls that we're throwing down the field and the simplicity of how it is to learn. So I think it's been a transformation in the last 24 months offensively. But yeah, you can't. The story always starts and ends with the quarterback position.
And one quick follow on that. Obviously, you deserve a lot of credit, your involvement in King, Van Dyke, Garcia. Rhett does obviously with King and Garcia. Dan Enos does obviously with Van Dyke. Any unsung heroes besides you three that you think have really been key in luring any of those three that comes to mind?
Well, I mean, I have to think about that for a second, but I can think with Jake. I mean, it might have been some of these recruits. It might have been a guy like James Williams or Romello Brinson. Our fan base deserves credit. They did a great job staying on Jake through the long haul. And, and that's why recruiting is a team effort. And I thought, getting a guy like Jake here, you mentioned, Dan did a great job with Tyler. It's hard. Tyler's coming here with a lot of uncertainty, new system. Are you guys going to, value my skill set? Are you guys going to want a runner, and I think Rhett has shown that we can win with multiple different types of quarterback play. I mean, I thought the key on Saturday, and I mentioned the passing yards with Pitt. We had 297 yards of offense on called run plays. I think we ran for 96 and threw for 197 on called runs. And Tyler's ability to control their defense with the RPO game was vital. Pitt had 60 yards of offense on called run plays. Now they didn't call as many runs as we did, but again, that is just old time ball. That's efficiency, and that's high percentage things. Now Kenny Pickett can make low percentage plays look high efficient, or higher percentage, but I thought our ability to run the football for Knighton to do a nice job with the offensive line is getting better and better. But Tyler to make some of the RPO throws that he made were vital, and we were a legal man downfield penalty away from that being over 300 yards of offense on called runs. That's really hard to do against Pitt. They're really, really good on defense and well trained. So, like I said, it's an offense that Tyler's really taken the reins of, but I think Rhett's done a really nice job of making it quarterback friendly, and I think that will continue to attract other great quarterbacks to want to come to Miami.
Thanks, Carter. Hey, Manny. Hey, Manny, you've been very consistent in your message, whether it's coming off two heartbreaking losses or now two very invigorating wins over top 20 teams. How important has it been for, first of all, the players to buy into that? Obviously, they could have gone another direction after the kind of those losses they had. And then what will that mean now for the final month of the season with them having experienced both the wins and the losses the way they have?
Well, I think the messaging we talked about yesterday was you have to treat both the same, adversity and success. It's a different type of adversity when people are now starting to tell you how good you are, and we have players getting accolades and so on and so forth. But anything that takes our eye off of the fact of getting better, what we have done in the last 4 years is we've gotten better. We're a better team that played against Virginia, regardless of how the game ended. I think we're a better team that played against North Carolina, and we needed to be, because we played. I mean, the last 2 teams we played have been a step up in competition. So if we stop doing that, if we start thinking, because now things are nice, we will get ourselves beat. I mean, I think that's what we've shown over 4 games is, we can beat anybody, we can be really good. But if we're not ourselves the way we want to be, we're definitely beatable. And I think that's life in and life out in the ACC. It's why you see top 10 teams go down every week in college football right now. It's where we're at. So, we didn't like it when people were feeding us. The players didn't like it when they're getting fed negativity, and they can't like it when they get fed positivity, because they're both unhealthy for you. You hold on to it, the praise, you hold on to the criticism, neither are good for you. So to me, that's why we talk about what's real, what we have to get better at, and how do we find a way to play our best ball in November.
Hey, Coach, I'm a little curious just about Tyler Van Dyke, the person, because he comes into a situation where the team is down, they've lost a couple of heartbreaking games, and now he just goes and knocks off 2 top 25 teams. So I'm curious, it looks like it's moxie, but I'm curious how you would describe what it is about him as a person that enabled him to sort of help lift this team up and reinvigorate this season.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, yeah, I think moxie is a good word. I mean, I think Tyler has that. I think anytime when someone's taking over the quarterback position, again, everybody on the football team watches that guy, right? He touches the ball in every play. And they got to believe in you. And the first thing that they got to do is they got to trust you. And what this team has known about Tyler for the last 2 years is that Tyler is a bulldog in the weight room. I mean, he is running sprints, off-season program, mat drills. The guy is a machine. I mean, he is trying to win every sprint we run. So there's going to be a natural bit of respect for Tyler, because they see, again, in a locker room, what stands out always, no matter what you say, is your work ethic and your toughness. And Tyler is a 10 out of 10 on both of those things. Now, what the team got to witness in spring ball, we didn't have De'Eric, was him and Jake both playing quarterback at a really, really high level. So I think we had a belief that, we can, these guys, they can move the football, with their ability to throw it and Tyler's legs and those type of things. So it was really, I think when he took over, I think it was sort of the combination of the team believed. I think Tyler just needed experience, and he needed to get in the game and see that he could do it, trust himself that he could do it. And I think that's kind of what happened. And I think that's where you look at, I mean, to me, there's so many plays that stand out over the last 2 weeks, but the first two third downs of the game, I think they're both 3rd down and 10. Maybe Pitt was 3rd and 11, 3rd and 10 against NC State. He drills a corner out to Harley. 3rd down and 10 against Pitt. First 3rd down of the game, they kind of roll to a cover 3, and he bangs a seam throw. I mean, hits a Keyshawn right over the outside shoulder. I mean, those are big time throws in any situation, but those are going to be 2 3 and outs to start the game. And for him to make those plays, that gets on the front foot, score a touchdown in the first 2 drives, it changes everything. So I think that's his internal self-belief that now he knows he's in the game, he can make those plays, and now, the team just follows along.
Hey, Coach, just building off that Tyler question, I wonder if you could take us behind the scenes on his film and game preparation. How is he with that as a young guy, and just how coachable is he too? Because, these last 2 games compared to his first 2 ACC starts, he's made some huge jumps, and how much of it is a result of that?
Well, Tyler's he's very coachable. And I think, again, one of the unsung heroes is De'Eric King. We talked about De'Eric when he came here, not just transforming us on the field, but I wanted, some of the quarterbacks we had, they didn't really have a strong older guy to say, here's how a quarterback behaves. Here's how you operate in meetings. Here's how you operate in walkthroughs. Here's how you operate in, and it's tough because when, we've had some young guys come through the program that they didn't really have the older guidance of like, hey, here's how we do this, here's how we do that. De'Eric was able to sort of reset that room and be the standard. So Tyler got to watch him all of last year. How he operates, how he prepares, how he does all those type things. And even now, when Tyler, takes a job with De'Eric and Jake out, I mean, having De'Eric sitting right next to him in every meeting, and just be able to process things. Sometimes players like kind of confirming what a coach says with another player so they can have one-on-one conversations. And, sometimes a player will ask another player a question that he may not ask the coach because he just wants to make sure he hears it the right way. And so I would say De'Eric is a big time unsung here, but Tyler, as you would expect, is meticulous with his preparation, does a great job of studying and understanding what's going on. He's got a whole new defense this week. How about thing I'll say now, 5 straight games, he's not played the same defensive structure back-to-back weeks. Georgia Tech is odd. They're in the 3 safety look. They're very fast on defense. They're extraordinarily multiple. They're coming around from everywhere. It's got a lot of fast guys that can confuse a quarterback. And we saw how well they played against Sam Howell in North Carolina. So it's a whole new challenge this week. It's completely different structure than what Pitt presented a week ago.
Manny, how you doing? With the local kids coming in ready to play, Leonard, Cam, James, coming in ready to play, how much credit would you give to the local high schools or just the culture of football, period, in the local area, instilling confidence and skill to those kids?
Oh, I think it's huge. I think you look at where they all came from. Northwestern or Palmetto, Heritage. James, of course, was at Western, every year they've gotten phenomenal coaching. I mean, even with some of the skill guys you mentioned, even in some of the 7-on-7s. I mean, we remember hearing about Cam Kitchens on the 7-on-7 circuit, not just the athletic part, but just how intelligent he was, how he wanted to know what everybody in defense was doing, and how he could explain everybody's job to everybody else out there. And I think you see that. I think you see some of that football IQ when you're snuffing out a Philly special on a crucial play in the game. So, and those are just, those are some of the high profile guys that right now because they're playing early as young guys. But, I've said this before. I mean, it starts here with youth football. It starts with the coaching at the youth football level and how important that is, because that's really the first exposure to the game, and the way that it's played at that level. And then from there, it graduates to the high school and 7-on-7 circuit. And no one has to do more with less than South Florida coaches. No one is more sort of underappreciated by the system than the South Florida head coach. So we're always very, thankful for their efforts, because they don't get what they get in other states. And that's inherently unfair. But they do a heck of a job because they know it's all about the kids. And I think that's, whether it's seeing them succeed at seeing them exceed on the next level, I think that's what gives everybody the joy and making what it should be about, which is about the kids.
Yeah, Coach, with that North Carolina game that Georgia Tech played, how much are you showing your team that essentially that Georgia Tech, they haven't put together a complete game like that since, but how much are you kind of reverting back to that if it goes well for Georgia Tech, these are maybe some things that they're capable of?
What's funny, Chris, is that we already kind of saw that game, because that was the game either a week or two before we played North Carolina. So our players would have seen that film as we were prepping for UNC. So, and I think that's the only time we followed Georgia Tech this year. I don't think we've played anyone in the league that Georgia Tech had already played. So I'll be very honest, that's all of our players know about Georgia Tech right now, because they watched that film, they saw it very closely, and they saw Sims, they couldn't put a hand on him in the second half, and they saw defensively, forcing turnovers, scooping scores. Very, very aggressive. So I think that's actually our first impression of Georgia Tech. And then you combine that with, what happened here back in 19, and I think the respect they have for the players that they've added since then. So I think getting their attention will be an issue this week.